What's up, guys? Welcome back. We are on the part 3 now of the 1980 Suzuki TS185. If you watched the last video, you'd seen that we got this thing to run, and after doing a little investigation, tore that top end apart, and we saw the carnage that took place in there with the original piston. So some really bad stuff happened in that top end, and the piston just broke apart. And luckily, the cylinder was still salvageable. Measured this out, and it's still within spec for the standard size piston. So we got that one right here ready to go. Got the rings here too. We got a wrist pin, the bearing for the little end of the crank, the clips, and some gaskets. Still waiting for a gasket for the reeds here. So in the meantime, I just went through and kind of cleaned up the cylinder head. I ended up having to I ended up ordering this one just to replace the one that came off of there, because if you recall, the original one was all beat up from chunks of the piston and rings and stuff that got blown off in there. So this one was in much better shape, so I ordered that up. Got a little bit of paint on there, make it look somewhat decent. Same with the cylinder itself. Like I said, I still have to, we're going to hone this out. Surprisingly, there's no gouges, if you remember. When I took this off, I was expecting it to be all messed up from that piston blown apart, but cylinder is still in good shape. I'm just going to hone it out. We got intake boot came in the mail. Nice and soft compared to the one that I pulled off of here, which is rock hard. It just wasn't going to work. Got the airbox all cleaned up. Almost forgot to, I got a new fuel petcock here to throw on there, including the little gaskets that go on the bolts. I got some brake shoes on the way. This just fell apart when I took that out. These are frozen right now too. I got a little bit of oil right down on the pivot here. Trying to free that up, but obviously these shoes are going to be getting ripped off here soon. Got the shocks. I kind of took a wire wheel and just knocked off the rust. Bring back some of that shine, make it look a little more decent than before. You can see how much crud was in the hub here, so I'll go through and clean all that up. Bearings are still good, wheel bearings surprisingly, but that axle did not want to come out of there. And we got some paint on the exhaust system and also on the brake pedal. And we also got chain and sprockets coming in. You can see the front. I've seen better days, front sprocket. And the chain was rusted completely solid, so I had to cut that off when I moved the bike around. So it's going to need chain and sprockets, which I got coming too. And I think that's about it. So it's just a matter of putting all this stuff together. Once we do, hopefully we'll get to hear this thing run a little longer than we did before. And maybe you get to ride it. I'm not sure. I don't know if I'm going to be able to fit that in this video too, but we shall see. Oh yeah, I got some cables too. Replacement cables for the clutch and the front brake. So we got a lot of stuff to do on here, and we're going to get as much done in this video as we can. Like I said, we'll maybe get to ride it, but I definitely want to hear it running this one. So stay tuned, and hopefully we'll get this thing running here shortly. So I think before I start reassembling the motor, I'm just going to get some small things out of the way, like the brakes, which just came in. I'm going to get the old shoes off, just pop these on, clean out the brake hub here too. Pretty good amount of rust on there. And I already put the cleaned up shocks back on, looking pretty good. So yeah, so before we start putting the motor back together, I'm waiting for that gasket for the reed here anyway. So we'll do all that at one point, but we'll start putting the brakes on and some of the smaller things first, and then we'll get to that motor. Start just getting these old shoes off. was able to get this pivot freed up. Okay, looks like the front and backs have the same size shoes. At least I hope that's right. It kind of sucks these don't come with the springs. Oh well, we'll get them moved over and just reuse them. Try to get some of this rust out of the hub here. I think that's about as good as it's going to get right there. Got my brakes on the hub here. And this is ready to go. Just waiting for my sprocket to come in, so we'll get this replaced too at the same time before I throw this back on. Just going to do the front brakes once I get the front wheel off to do the cables and stuff, so I'll worry about that in a bit. And next up, the new fuel petcock, new O-ring, and then 2 gaskets for the bolts that go in there too. So I got this all cleaned up, smooth as that's going to get. Should just slide right into place. Moving over to the airbox, I already fitted the new intake boot on here, and with the clip or the retaining band as well. So now it's just a matter of cutting some air filter element and measuring it out. And also I got to create a strap that goes from top to bottom here. So I think I'm going to get a measurement, see what kind of size chunk of metal I'm going to need. So we'll say roughly, 8 inches worth of, probably just going to get a piece of aluminum. Just a strip that kind of goes over and holds that element in place. So I'm going to go find a piece and take care of that. I'm just going to get a rough measurement just by fitting this. See how much I'm going to have to cut off. Probably going to have to do 2 layers. Alright, so we'll say right here is where we're going to cut. Alright, there's going to be a lot of excess here. Just cut off right around the edge here, I think. The rest of that should fit right in there. Perfect. All right, so I'll use this as a template. And I'll cut another piece the same size so I can lay it right over top of there. Because I think that's a little bit thin with just 1 layer. So I'm going to do 2. And like I said, I'll make that retaining clip. And we will be good to go with the airbox. Okay, much better with two layers there. And obviously I'll oil this up before I put it all back together, but this is just a test fit, and it looks like we're good to go. So let's get the retaining clip and some oil on there, and I'm done with the airbox. All right, next up I'm going to put the clutch cable on. So I'm going to get the cover off here and get a look at the assembly that's in there, and we're going to get rid of this old ratty one and put the new one on. All right, so for this here, it looks like I got 2 Phillips screws here, and hopefully this just pops off. And hopefully these screws don't give me too much of a fight. I can tell this one's a little bit boogered up here. And get the impact screwdriver on these. That one came loose. Sweet. Get this boot out of the way. I guess what I'm going to do is try to remove the arm. That'll pull this whole thing off, and then I can get to this this little cotter pin on the back of this pivot here a little easier. It's just a matter of screwing in the new one. Alright, just gonna put a little lube on the pivot point here. Put that cotter pin back in place. Okay, I think we're good to go with the clutch. And get this old sprocket off, throw the new one on. Okay, we got that sprocket mounted. Put the wheel back on the bike too, just waiting for the chain and sprockets to come in. The front sprocket at least, and chain. And we got the brakes hooked up. Everything's unfrozen here. Got the arm adjusted. So we're on our way. I'm gonna take that front wheel off next, I think, and get the brakes put on there along with the front brake cable. Got the brake cable to put on and the new shoes. And I'm really surprised that this is actually greased up. Didn't have to beat that one off. That's the back one. Those don't look bad at all. I should have looked at those before I got those other pads or other shoes. I just kind of assumed they were going to be as bad as the back, but the fronts are actually in really good shape. Oh well, I'll replace them either way. Still a little bit of rust in the hub here. We'll get all that out. Bearing feels okay. I got the hub all cleaned up. Got the new brake shoes on, and I got the new brake cable on here too. I'm just gonna throw the wheel back in, and we'll adjust that cable. We'll have front brakes again. Okay, we got front brakes again. All right, so moving back over to the motor, I am going to use a ball hone on this, and we're gonna get some fresh cross hatches cut into here. Clean this up a little bit, make sure there's no burrs, make sure these ports don't have any kind of burrs on them that could catch a ring or anything like that. So I got my driller handy. I'm going to oil this down, and we're going to get this cleaned up. I'm going to use a healthy dose of, this is just some 10W40 oil that I got laying around. I'm going to lube up the cylinder real good, then I'm going to lube the ball hone themselves too. Make sure we got complete coverage here. All right, I'm gonna make a couple passes going clockwise. Then I'll flip it counterclockwise. And just until we get some good cross hatching and all that glaze off the cylinder. All right, so I'm gonna start this. I'm gonna start it while it's moving. Whoopsie, not like that. Just even passes all the way through. Go for about 30 seconds this way. We're going to flip it. We're starting to see some cross hatching. There's still a little glazing on it I could see. So I'm going to make a couple more passes and try to get that a little more even. And I'm thinking that's going to do it right there. That's as good as it's going to get. We'll get this cleaned up. This is going to go in some warm soapy water. Get all those ports cleaned out, and we'll take another look at it once it's all done. Okay, we got it all cleaned out. Just dried it off as much as I could. I'm just going to get some air blown in there and get any excess water that's left over in those ports. Also make sure this oil line here is open. Looking pretty good. Next up, I'll get the new rings and piston, and we'll just kind of look at the ring gaps on here and see how it's measuring up. I'm going to check those ring gaps real quick. there should be markings on here. Yep. These are going to go up. Get a little oil on here first. All right, let me get my feeler gauge, see what those gaps are. So according to the manual, the ring end gap is supposed to be between 6 and 14 thousandths. So I'm going to start off around 10 and see where we're at. See if I can get a 10 in there. Try an 11. So it looks like 11 has nice drag on it, so we're within spec there, just to confirm. So that's good for that ring. Let me get the other one in there. Just eyeballing, and I can tell that's pretty close to the other one. Yeah, feels the same there. I got a little drag on it with 11. So we are good to go. All right, might as well fit these rings on here now. So we got these two little dowels. Just gonna make sure I get those lined up with the end gaps. Get a little oil on there again. All right, we just wanna make sure we got the writing facing upwards. Start with that bottom ring. It's always the most nerve-wracking part for me. Aside from the first startup, but I'm always afraid I'm going to snap one of these rings off. Okay. Bottom one in place. Check for the rating on this one. Rating is upwards, okay. Okay, we got the dowel pins lined up. We are good to go. So the reed valve gasket came in too, so I'm going to start putting this motor back together, finally. So back over to the motor here, I put a little bit of grease on the mating surface here, just in case I got to tear this apart for crank seals or something again. Also, this gasket I got has the openings on both sides for the oil line, which is nice, so you don't get that messed up. I'm going to slip this on. And next up, I'm ready for the piston. Just going to use a little bit of assembly lube here on the bearing for the wrist pin. Piston in next. I got the one side, the clip's already in there, and I already got the screwdriver on it, spun it around a little bit, make sure it's completely seated. And I'm just going to work in the pin from the other side here. Okay, I also have the arrow pointing towards the exhaust. That's good to go. Just gonna spin around to the other side. We'll put the clip in that end, and then we're ready to slip the jug on. Got some rag shoved down here in case this little clip goes flying. It's not gonna find its way into the crankcase. I got the clip into the groove. I'm just trying to give it a little spin with the screwdriver to make sure it's seated completely. Yeah, it seems like it is. I got it to turn a little bit. I was able to get a little more spin on there, so the opening isn't right on this edge right here. And I'm just pushing the wrist pin back and forth, making it sure that it's completely seated on both sides, which it feels good. So I think we're ready for the jug next. Before I put that jug on, I just want to get some two-stroke oil on this piston. Just kind of get it all lubed up. Get the rings all juicy. And this isn't a completely dry start. Make sure my dials are set correctly on here for the rings, the ring end gaps. Let's see if I can do this without much drama. Obviously, I'll be getting those rags out of there before I slip this all the way on. This is just kind of to help it keep its place there while I squeeze the rings into place. All right, before I tighten anything down, I'm just going to slowly crank this over, make sure that everything seems to be working good there with the piston and rings. All right. All right, I got all 6 of these nuts snugged up, 3 on each side here. And I'm just gonna turn this over again slowly. We still got smooth action, so that's good. We got the head gasket going on next. And let's see here. We got a top marking right here, obviously, which has to be facing upwards. And it's gonna go like that. And on the head itself, you can see the indentation where it said top from the previous head gasket. So I know I'm in the right direction. I don't know if that even matters, but I'm just gonna put it back the way I found it. Torque these down to 12 foot-pounds. And I'm going to go in a star pattern here. Do a little bit at a time. Way more compression than before. And we can't forget to hook up the oil lines. Carburetor back on. Use the airbox in here next. Carb mounted, the boots are mounted, and we got the airbox in, so it's just a matter of getting some oil on that air filter, and I'll fit it in here, and then we're going to put the exhaust on next. All right, so I think we're getting ready to put some fuel in the gas tank, make sure she doesn't leak, and we're going to try to fire it up. Got the airbox on, it's all buttoned up. Still don't have the front sprocket yet, so I'm just going to leave this off until we get that. I'm not really going to ride it around at all right now. I just want to see if it'll start, and we'll see if she blows smoke real bad. Hopefully we don't need crank seals. So let's get some gas in there and get it fired up. Okay, here we go, moment of truth with this tank. It held the vinegar in there pretty well, so it holds the gas just as good. So far so good. Let's open up that petcock and see if anything leaks here. I have to do reserve. Great. This petcock won't let me get on to reserve here because of this is an aftermarket petcock and it's rubbing up against the tanks. That's great. So we'll just try it on. And we got gas going in there, so it should be good. Car was fine before. I'm not expecting that to leak. I'm just more concerned about my patch job here. So far so good. All right, let's get this thing outside and hopefully we can get it started up. it's idling right now, but it's not going to idle with the choke on. So I'm going to do a little spraying around just to make sure I don't have any air leaks. Idle's pretty nice. The engine's quiet. I'm going to spray some brake cleaner or something around here to see if that crank seal is sucking any air. And around here too, just to see if we got any air leaks. Sounds pretty good though. Well, I think it's just a fuel delivery issue. It's running and idling without the choke on now. I had to lean it this way to get the fuel to get into the carburetor, just because I can't get this on reserve. It's buttoned up against here, so I haven't leaned all the way over, so the fuel's getting in, and it's idling nice now. So I'm going to have to modify this here, I think. See if I can take this off, maybe cut the bottom of this off, because it keeps hitting this section right here. Excessive amount of smoke yet either, which is good. It's promising. So hopefully the crank seal's good. It could also be this fuel cap not letting it ventilate, creating an air vacuum in there. So a little bit more tweaking to do. Sounds pretty good though. I think those revs like to hang up here a little bit longer than I like, but we'll get that figured out. Alright guys, that's where I'm going to leave off on this video. The carburetor I think still needs a little bit of tweaking. It is running a little bit lean I think, having the idle hang and just some erratic idling issues too. So I'm going to probably take that off, get a better look at that. I'm going to fix that petcock and just kind of make sure that it's not running on the lean side, because I think that's where the issue is right now. So we're going to get that carburetor off here next I think. So in the next video I should be riding it around. The other thing is this sprocket never came in for me to put the chain and sprockets on, so I didn't want to put a new chain on that. So, another plus is the fuel tank is actually holding fuel. It's not leaking anywhere, so the patch job seems to be successful so far. So crossing my fingers, and hopefully that stays that way. Just double check that float and make sure the idle air circuit's cleaned out and everything else. Just going to go through it all again. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed that, make sure you hit subscribe and the bell icon so you're notified whenever the next video comes out on this bike, and other ones too. I got a lot more in the pipeline. So thanks again for watching, and we will see you in the next video.